It started from like say, 2 years of marriage. So then I realized it after 3-4 years. So then, okay, wherein I was like, every time I go to work, so I was asked, where are you going? Why are you wearing this? I didn't even know what to answer, because every time I have my responsibility as a professional also, and I don't have to be answering somebody at home and taking permission to do all those things. But he wouldn't even tell me where is he going.
Yours was an arranged marriage?
No, it was a love marriage.
Okay, and what does your husband do?
He's a director in one of the software companies.
Okay. So it was a love marriage, and after that these problems started creeping in immediately after marriage, or how was it?
It was 1.5 years. So it started after we married, 1.5 years, and we had a baby by then. Mm-hmm. So things looked fine, but initially I knew, he didn't want to spend money on me. I didn't even expect that. It was like there's always a segregation from day one, which I felt it's yours, it's mine. There was nothing called as ours in the family. So that is where, I started finding the differences. For him, it was just me. It was, for me meaning it was me and my husband and my child. For him, it was just me, meaning it was just himself. So that is where the differences started. So he didn't want to spend money on me or my child, and he used to abuse me, saying like, it was decided that I would take a break from my work for some time because of the child. So it was mutually agreed, and I did that for my family. So then we were not in India at that point of time, and I was not working. So every day I sit to eat my food, he used to tell me, abuse me, saying, what you're eating is out of my money, what you're wearing is out of my money, and the diaper the child is wearing is out of my money. So this is the kind of abuses I had to go through, and every single penny I had to beg him for. And he used to tell me, you fall at my feet, I will give you money to buy diapers for the child. So which had to come to me as a right. So, and I was many times told that, he used to tell me that, I would throw you out of the house. We were in a country where I knew nobody else except that man. I went in there as a dependent. So it had to be the family, I didn't see those values there. So it was just, we had to go as together, as one. It was bifurcated there. It was just him, me and my child was one for me. So that is where, and later, he had affairs with many women, which I had to go through all those things. And so finally I realized it, and I didn't even know what my rights were. I only knew I can come back and, apply for a divorce. That is basically, nowhere we even read that or, bother to understand. Even as an educated class, I say we never bother to understand until we even go through that problem. So only when I had a problem, I used to Google and read law books and try to find out what my rights are. As a wife, what my rights are. Do I have a right in his earnings? How much is it? What do I get if I move out? I didn't have a job. How do I bring up my child? So then I had to figure out. I came back to India and applied for a divorce, but it's still taking a long time.
And how long has this process been going on?
This has been going on since 4-5 years now.
4-5 years, women being abused. But that's not just one side of the story. There's another side of the story too. Let me quickly get Naveen in on this. Naveen, you were also a victim at your wife's hands, and it is not just husband abusing the wife all the time.
No, there are two kinds of abuse basically, physical abuse and emotional abuse. When you talk of physical abuse, yes, the presumption is that usually it's the husband who's abusing the wife. It doesn't always happen. There is a wife abusing the husband as well. But emotional abuse is as devastating and as bad as a physical abuse. Now, unfortunately, under Indian law, a husband has no protection against any kind of abuse by the wife. Okay, and when anything happens, anything goes wrong, the wife is also in a position to file false dowry harassment cases or a domestic violence case. And then the husband has to again answer. He has to prove himself innocent rather than the other way around. The wife doesn't have to prove him guilty.
Were you put through?
Yes, I was put through that, and that was a very, very silly reason. Basically, she would push me to the wall to try to raise my temper, and I would always leave the house. Except one time, my daughter asked for a dosa, and that was the only time I actually touched my wife in anger. She was still in bed at 11:30 in the morning. I took hold of her wrist and pulled her out of bed and asked her to go make dosa for my daughter. That became the domestic violence case and all those things and etc. So there is no protection for the husband from an abusive wife. And unfortunately, since then I have been counseling others, trying to understand the situation, and I find that all this kind of abuse, either by the wife or by the husband, comes primarily from one source. When that person's affections are with somebody else, then the family no longer counts. That is when the abuse comes in. Otherwise, there's no reason really for two people to abuse one another. When one person's affections are with somebody else, through an affair, emotional or physical affair, then the family doesn't count anymore. I think one of our co-panelists, she went through the same thing. When the man's affections are somewhere else, abuse happens. In my case also, when my wife's affections are somewhere else, abuse happens. I think pretty much that's where it happens. So we need to try and shut down the problem at its source rather than try to apply some balm or first aid when it actually happens. Try to prevent infidelity, or if there is infidelity, to provide support to the victim, irrespective of whether it's a man or a woman. A victim of infidelity is a victim of infidelity. When there is a victim, either a man or a woman, he or she needs to be supported, and the criminal, the one who is perpetuating the crime, she should be the one, or he should be the one who is actually getting the punishment. Unfortunately, under our present system, somehow it's always the criminal who goes and gets justice. Very, very few real victims of domestic violence, a woman or a man, actually go and ask for justice. They typically do not file cases. They tend to just take the child or whatever little they can carry in their hands and they run out of the house. They don't file a case against the husband. When a man is being abused, he just asks for a divorce. That's all he asks for. He doesn't ask for any punishment or any restitution for all the harm that has been done. Unfortunately, that is the situation here. And society also doesn't seem to understand that there is a problem of a victim, man or woman, and then there is someone who perpetuates the crime, man or woman. It is almost always gender related. The woman gets it, and usually the woman who is the criminal gets all the benefits. The woman who is the victim just hides away in the corner because society doesn't support, the law doesn't support, the family doesn't support. She just has to hide in the corner. So somewhere down the line, we need to bring the awareness in society that brings out the victim's rights, man and woman, and child. Here we are forgetting the child, man and woman and the child. Their rights are not addressed by society at all. It's usually the one who is loud, who's got the upper hand, who is able to take the first step, who's usually the one who is actually cause of the problem itself. Children, they suffer. Even if the parents fight, the children suffer because the affections are somewhere else. The parent whose affections are elsewhere is not with the child anymore. The child grows up to be traumatized, alienated, gets poor grades in school, and tends to be a dropout, or gets into crime, gets into delinquency. Those are all the things you're seeing worldwide as well as now in India.
It's an interesting thought there. Like Mr. Purana said, the laws are there for married women, but women who suffer in marriage suffer in silence, while women who are actually abusing their husbands exploit the law, and they are the ones who get away with it. We're slipping into a short break now. We are slipping into a short break. On the other side, we will take your calls. We'll also understand some thoughts from our panelists and also from a legal point of view and a perception with respect to laws. On the other side, stay with us.